You know, walking is a fundamental human activity of moving on foot, used for transportation, exercise, or leisure, or to go hang out with my buddy Jevohn Shepherd, our NBA analyst, on the other side of the studio. Looking great once again. How are you?
I'm great, brother, man. I'm having fun.
You know, it's...
And we got some good weather.
Oh,
we got some
man.
great weather.
The city of Toronto finally getting some decent weather, which is a lovely thing.
Yeah.
And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just continues to make me so happy to be a Canadian. He scores at least 20 points for the 126th straight game, tying Wilt Chamberlain's all-time mark. Yep. This is one of those records, Jevohn, you thought maybe would never be broken. Can you put into context how impressive this is?
It's pretty incredible because when you think about this, right, I automatically, think of Michael Jordan. I think of Kobe Bryant. I think of, Shaquille O'Neal, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, guys who have been labeled GOATs of their era. And those guys haven't sniffed this record, right? And for me, it's impressive because I think, SGA wants to be one of the greatest to ever have done this thing, and he's leaving no stone unturned. It's also impressive that, his physique and his ability is what really sets him apart, and his mentality is what sets him apart, right? 6'6", very slender. He's not like Wilt Chamberlain, who was 7'1" and, a physical force and dominating his opposition. Shai's just doing it a completely different way. So it's really impressive to see. And when you put into context those other players that I mentioned, and Shai's exceeded that, he's onto something.
When you think about 126 straight games where you score at least 20 points, the word that comes to my mind is consistency. Mm-hmm. So what is it about Shai's game that allows him to have that consistency?
Well, and to your point, I remember him saying a couple months ago, my whole life is consistent, right? And this speaks to it. But, there's times when we've had conversations when I think he's absolutely crazy because he speaks with a conviction, right? He speaks with a belief. A lot of players say, I want to win. I want to be better than. When Shai speaks, it's I'm going to do this. And that's when I think he's crazy. But then you start to see some of the things that he's accomplishing, and you sit back and you're like, okay, let me look at the little things, and it starts to make sense, right? The 6 a.m. workouts, him building a gym in his garage, to work out. And also, there's this one conversation we had, it was last year, after they won the championship, just asking, what are you going to do with your family? You guys going on vacation and so forth. And he looked at me and, he smirked and he chuckled. He said, vacations are for rich people, right? He wasn't done. He's already wired for the next, right? And I think for us, we marvel at some of these accomplishments, but for him, it's just another step along the journey and what he wants to accomplish.
He was MVP last year. He won the title last year. He's the heavy favorite to win MVP again. But you think he'd give up that MVP if he could repeat as a champion?
Greatness, for me, greatness isn't defined by MVPs, right? And I know he wants to be great. What that's defined by is NBA championships, right? And every time we have the conversation about the greats, the GOATs, of this game, that conversation starts with how many championships did they win, right? It ends with how many championships did they win? And I think it's an easy answer, right? It's the NBA championship, right? That's first and foremost. And maybe being a finals MVP with an NBA championship trumps just having an MVP, right? The conversation changes when you start to have 2, 3, 4, 5 of those things.
Jevohn Shepherd, how excited are you for Shai to potentially break this record Thursday against the Boston Celtics?
I'm excited because, again, we're talking about the Wilt Chamberlains. And when we start talking about, SGA, the conversation is we're putting him in the same category as some of the people that have been mythical characters, so to say. And then you think, wow, he's Canadian, right? And he's from Hamilton. And I think that's what excites me the most because he's doing it for himself, but he's also setting a new standard for an entire nation.